What the hell is wrong with you? Caleb. That was the moment my brother Ryan screamed across the room at my 8-year-old son and then hit him. The room fell into a dead silence. My son collapsed, blood streaming from his nose, and I, Ethan Harper, just stood there, frozen. I didn't yell. I didn't hit back. But I promise you, that was the last time anyone laid a hand on my child. Because what came next, no one saw it coming. My name's Ethan Harper. I'm 38, a bank teller in a small Georgia town. You wouldn't look twice at me on the street. Most days I smile, process checks, and dream of getting through life without making waves. But I have a past. A dark one I tried to bury with every polite smile and every quiet holiday gathering. And I have a son, Caleb. He's my everything. So when my brother, the man I once swore I'd protect, became a threat to him, I realized the silence I grew up with had to end. This isn't a story about revenge. It's about breaking the cycle, and how one quiet man found the courage to burn a legacy to the ground to protect what mattered most before we dive into what happened after that night. Do me a favor. Hit that like button if you've ever had to choose between family and what's right. Comment below if you've been the one to speak out when no one else would. And subscribe because what you're about to hear might just help someone do the same. I live in Newton, Georgia, the kind of place where neighbors wave even if they hate you. Our roads are framed by pine trees and the same slow gossip that's been circling for 50 years. I work at a small community bank. Same desk, same coffee, same tired smile every day. But at home I have something worth everything. Olivia, my wife, and Caleb, our 8-year-old son with wild brown curls and a laugh that fills a room. Growing up, I didn't know safety. My father, Frank Harper, was a long-haul trucker with anger in his veins and a bottle in his hand. When he came home, we flinched. My mother, Marilyn, worked in the cafeteria at Waycross High and tried to keep things together, but no meal could cover the bruises. No smile could erase the shouting. Back then, I had a little brother, Ryan Harper, 3 years younger, quieter, always hiding behind me when Dad exploded. I tried to protect him, even when I couldn't protect myself. Fast forward 25 years, and Ryan's a different man, or so I told myself. Successful job, divorced, a 13-year-old daughter, Izzy. But when Olivia looked at me one night and said, "Ethan, the way your brother watches Caleb, I don't like it." I laughed. I brushed it off. "He's just intense," I said. But the truth, I saw it too, and I was afraid to name it. We kept up the appearances. That's what my family does, every Christmas. We drive back to that house in Waycross. Same sagging porch, same smoke-stained walls. We smile, eat dinner, open presents, and pretend everything's normal. But that last Christmas, that was the night the pretending ended. Christmas Eve, 2023. The sky above Waycross was dull gray, like it always is this time of year. The trees were bare, the air thick with the kind of cold that doesn't bite, it lingers. We drove the old route from Newton in silence, Olivia's hands tight on the steering wheel while Caleb hummed along to the radio in the back seat, completely unaware of the weight we carried with us. Every year we made this trip, and every year I told myself the same lie. This time will be different. We pulled into the gravel driveway just before dusk. The house looked exactly the same. Peeling paint. Faded Christmas lights hanging from the porch that no one had bothered to take down since last year. The faint smell of pine and stale cigarettes hit me the moment I stepped out of the car. Inside, my mother was already in the kitchen, fussing over the turkey like it could distract her from everything else. "Ethan, you made it." She smiled, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Caleb's gotten so tall." She hugged him tight, and for a moment, I almost believed this was just another warm family holiday. Then I saw my father. Frank sat in the old recliner in the living room, watching football with a glass of bourbon in hand, acting like nothing had ever happened in this house. Like the beatings, the screaming, the broken plates and broken bones were just foggy memories he never owned. He looked over and gave a grunt of acknowledgement. "You're late." That was it. No hello, no Merry Christmas. Just a reminder that no matter how far I'd come, this place still had claws in me. Ryan showed up an hour later, dressed like a man who had it all together, pressed shirt. Watch that probably cost more than my car. And that fake executive smile he's perfected over the years. Trailing behind him was Izzy. 13 years old, slim build, dark hair pulled back tight, eyes downcast. She didn't say much. But when she saw Caleb, a faint smile broke through. They always got along. The evening wore on like it always did. The grown-ups talked in stiff sentences over cheap wine. My father told the same trucking stories he always did, slightly more exaggerated each year. My mother cooked, cleaned, and tried to keep the peace. And me, I kept watching. Watching Ryan. Watching the way Izzy flinched when he raised his voice. Watching how Caleb instinctively stayed closer to Olivia's side when Ryan entered the room. At dinner, I sat across from Ryan. Olivia sat next to me, squeezing my knee under the table each time the conversation veered toward tension. My father laughed loud, banging the table, going on about tough men and soft kids these days. Ryan nodded along, sipping his whiskey. Then he turned to Caleb. "You playing any sports yet?" Kid Caleb shook his head. "Not really." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "What? Too busy with video games." It was a simple comment, maybe even harmless on the surface. But there was something sharp behind it. Something cold. Olivia tensed beside me. I caught her eye, but said nothing. I should have said something. After dinner, the kids ran off to the den to play. My mother started clearing dishes. My father lit another cigarette inside like he always did, and no one dared stop him. And Ryan, he sat back, swirling the ice in his glass, eyes distant, jaw clenched. Still at that same little bank, he asked me suddenly. "Still?" I said. "Thought you'd move up by now. You're a smart guy." I didn't respond, because we both knew what he was really saying. You didn't become me. The tension was thick, but we all kept smiling, pretending. That's what this family does. We paint over cracks and hope no one notices when the whole damn wall crumbles. Later that night, Olivia and I tucked Caleb into the guest room bed. He looked up at me and whispered, "Daddy, why does Uncle Ryan look mad all the time?" I paused. "He just gets stressed. Buddy, don't worry." I kissed his forehead and turned off the light, knowing full well I was lying. Downstairs, my father was pouring another drink. My mother was frosting cookies. Ryan had disappeared onto the back porch, probably calling someone to remind them how important he was. I leaned against the doorframe, watching the fireplace flicker. I had built a whole new life for myself, far away from this house. But every time I came back, it was like nothing had changed. like the terrified little boy I used to be, was still hiding somewhere in the walls, waiting to be hit, waiting to be silenced. And then something happened that changed everything. The sound of laughter came from the kitchen. Caleb and Izzy were stacking gingerbread cookies, competing over who could build the tallest tower. For a brief second, it felt normal. Like maybe we could get through the night without cracks showing. I stayed in the living room, sitting stiffly on the couch, trying to ignore the weight in my chest. Olivia was beside me, silent but alert. I could feel it in the way she kept glancing toward the hallway. The air was thick, heavy with everything unsaid. My father, still parked in his recliner, was halfway through another bourbon. He launched into a story from his trucking days, voice booming, slurring slightly, oblivious or pretending to be. Ryan sat across from us, legs crossed, whiskey in hand, eyes locked on the window, jaw tight. Something was brewing behind that calm exterior. You could feel it, the way animals sense a storm before the first drop. Then Caleb came running into the room, barefoot, holding an empty glass, just getting some water. He chirped, racing toward the dining table. His foot caught on the edge of that old area rug. Time slowed. The glass slipped. Water spilled across the hardwood. A few drops splashed onto Ryan's expensive shirt. For a second, everyone froze. Just a kid, just a clumsy step. But Ryan's face changed instantly. He stood up. "What the hell is wrong with you?" "Caleb." His voice didn't rise. It roared. Caleb stopped in his tracks, startled, glass still in hand. I'm sorry," he stammered. I started to rise, but too late. Ryan closed the distance in 2 steps. He didn't yell again. He raised his hand and swung. The crack of the blow snapped through the room like a gunshot. The glass shattered on the floor. Caleb collapsed, screaming. Blood rushed from his nose. Olivia was already moving. She dropped to her knees beside him, hands trembling. "Caleb, look at me. Baby, look at me." Her voice cracked, but she kept wiping the blood away. I stood there, still, watching. Ryan's chest rose and fell. His fist was still clenched. "I didn't mean he needs to be more careful," he muttered. Izzy backed into the corner, arms wrapped around herself. Her eyes were wide, silent. My mother had stepped into the doorway, still holding a carving knife. She stared at Caleb, then at Ryan, then back again. "He probably slipped," she said quickly. Her voice was shaking, but she tried to steady it. "It's just water. Let's not make this into something it's not." My father scoffed. "Don't overreact. The kid's fine. Boys toughen up." Then he looked straight at me. "Ethan, tell your wife to calm down." Olivia whipped around. "Don't you dare." She snapped. "Don't you dare defend this. He hit our son. He punched an 8-year-old. But still, I couldn't move. The memories flooded in. That same carpet, that same living room. The time I spilled soda on Dad's boots. The slap. The crash. The silence after. Ethan Olivia's voice broke through my paralysis. "What are you doing? Help him." I rushed forward, finally kneeling beside Caleb. He was crying, clutching his face. Blood had soaked through his shirt. I reached out. "Hey, buddy, it's Dad. I'm here." He looked at me like he didn't recognize me. like I was part of what hurt him. I turned to Ryan. My voice cracked. "What the hell did you just do?" Ryan didn't blink. He needs to learn. It was just a mistake. My mother stepped between us, reaching for Ryan's arm like he was the one who needed comfort. "Ethan, don't make a scene. Please. It's Christmas. Don't blow this out of proportion." Out of proportion I stood now, voice louder, throat raw. He hit my son. My son. My father's eyes narrowed. "You got hit plenty of times, and you're still standing. You're too soft. That's the problem." I stared at him, at both of them, and I realized something. They weren't shocked. They weren't even surprised, because this was normal to them. Ryan stood there, glassy-eyed, taking another sip. "Suit yourself," he mumbled. I looked at Caleb, his face streaked with tears and blood, and then at Olivia. She wasn't crying. She wasn't panicking. She was cold, controlled, and furious. She stood, lifted Caleb gently in her arms, then looked Ryan in the eye. "If you ever come near my son again," she said, her voice flat, "I'll make sure you never see your daughter either." Ryan scoffed. "Don't threaten me." But no one was listening to him anymore. I helped Olivia get Caleb to the car. My hands shook as I buckled him in. He winced in pain, and I winced with him as we drove away, headlights cutting through the thick Georgia fog. No one spoke, but the silence said everything. That was the moment it all broke. The family, the illusion, the cycle. But what I didn't know then was it wasn't over. Not even close. The ER visit. The lie that made everything worse. The letter that changed everything. And the moment I stopped being afraid, the drive to the hospital felt endless. The fog had thickened, swallowing the road in front of us. Caleb was slumped against Olivia in the passenger seat. Silent now, too exhausted to cry. The band of white Christmas lights on people's porches blurred past us like ghosts. I kept my hands at 10 and 2, gripping the wheel tighter than I should have. My knuckles were white. My heart pounded, but not from the road. It was from the shame. My son was hurt, and I'd frozen. The emergency room was buzzing when we arrived. People in pajamas, a man groaning from a twisted ankle. Flu season chaos. But when Olivia walked through those doors with Caleb in her arms, everything else disappeared. "We need a doctor," she called out, loud and sharp. "Now." A nurse rushed over and led us into a curtained exam room. The lights were too bright. The air smelled like bleach and plastic. Caleb lay back on the gurney, pale and quiet. The nurse asked him questions, cleaned the blood off his face, and handed us tissues we didn't use. A few minutes later, a middle-aged doctor stepped in. Salt and pepper hair, calm eyes, like someone who'd seen too much and learned not to flinch. "What happened?" he asked gently, examining Caleb's nose. "Did you fall?" Caleb looked at me. Not Olivia, not the nurse. Me. His eyes were wide, waiting, hoping. He was begging me to tell the truth. But instead, I said, "He got into it with a friend. There was a spill. Things got rough." I didn't recognize my own voice. The doctor paused for half a second, then nodded. "Broken nose. He'll be okay, but he'll need time to heal. No contact sports for a while." I thanked him, barely above a whisper. When he left, Olivia turned to me. "What the hell was that?" she said, voice shaking. "You lied, right in front of him." I didn't want to drag our family into it. I said, weakly, "I just needed them to treat him." I panicked. Her eyes were cold. "You protected Ryan." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. She stood up and gathered Caleb's things. "We're going to my parents' house. Don't follow us." "Olivia, please, let me explain." But she didn't stop. She didn't scream. She just walked away. Caleb cradled in her arms, like I was a stranger. I stood there in the empty hospital room, frozen again. And then I drove home alone. The house in Newton was quiet. I walked through each room like a ghost. Olivia's closet was half empty. Caleb's toys were gone. Just silence and guilt. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I didn't even sit. I just stood at the window, staring out into the darkness, trying to understand what I'd become. And that's when I saw the envelope. It had been slipped under the door. Just a plain white envelope with my name on it. Written in neat, careful handwriting. "Uncle Ethan." My heart stopped. Inside were 3 pages. Folded, lined paper. Written in blue pen. No fancy words. Just raw truth. It was from Izzy. She said she didn't know who else to turn to, that her dad Ryan had been hurting her. Not once. Not by accident. Often. For years. When I get a bad grade, he yells. When I talk back, he hits. Sometimes with his hand, sometimes with a belt. Sometimes he locks me in the basement. I read every word, twice, 3 times. She was scared. She was alone. And she trusted me. She ended it with one line I'll never forget. "I saw you stay quiet when he hit Caleb. Please don't stay quiet for me too." I dropped the letter. It hit the floor like a verdict. My whole body shook. That was my niece. The girl I'd watched grow up. The girl who looked like my brother but had my eyes. The same eyes that used to look up at me in fear when our dad came home angry. The same eyes I saw in the mirror every day. I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch a wall. But mostly I wanted to fix it. For real this time. No more silence. No more pretending. No more loyalty to a family name that meant nothing anymore. I picked up the letter. I read it again. And I made a promise. This ends now. The next morning, I called Olivia. No answer. Straight to voicemail. So I left a message. "Olivia, I was wrong. I lied. And I failed you. But I swear to you, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to protect Caleb and Izzy, even if it means tearing everything else down." Then I called a lawyer. Her name was Danielle Brooks, a small-town attorney with the kind of voice that didn't flinch. She didn't wear pearls or power suits, just a blazer, messy bun, and glasses pushed up her nose as she flipped through pages of notes in her office that smelled faintly of old books and lemon-scented Clorox wipes. "So," she said, after I'd laid it all out. "Ryan, Caleb, Izzy, the Christmas night, the letter. You want to file a formal complaint for child abuse against your own brother." I nodded. "I want to protect them." I said, "Both of them. I want this cycle to stop." Danielle leaned back, tapping her pen against her chin. "You're not the first person to walk in here with a story like this. But you're one of the very few willing to take it all the way." I have to. She nodded slowly, then opened a folder. "Okay. Then we need evidence. Solid, undeniable evidence. And we need it fast. I handed her the letter from Izzy. She read it quietly. No reaction, no judgment. But when she looked up, her eyes were steel. This is strong. Not enough on its own. But it's a start. I added photos of Caleb's injuries, his ER report, the voicemail from Olivia confirming everything. Danielle nodded. We're building a foundation. She explained the process. We'd file a formal report with Georgia's Division of Family and Children's Services. From there, an investigator would be assigned. Interviews, home visits, and eventually, if the state agreed, court. I walked out of that office more scared than I'd ever been. But for once, it wasn't fear of my father or of Ryan. It was fear of not doing enough. Back at home, I started documenting everything, every bruise, every message from Izzy, every memory I could remember where the warning signs had been there and I'd ignored them. And then I got the call. Mr. Harper, this is Linda Torres with DFCS. We've received your report. I'd like to set up a time to speak with you and your niece. Her voice was calm, professional, but I heard the weight behind it. She knew this wasn't just paperwork. This was a lifeline. The following day, I picked Izzy up from school during her lunch break. She looked smaller than I remembered. Shoulders tense, eyes constantly scanning the room. I got you something, I said, handing her a hot cocoa and a burger wrapped in wax paper. She gave me the faintest smile. Thanks. We sat in the corner of the school cafeteria. I kept my voice low. You did the bravest thing anyone could have done, Izzy, and I'm going to help you. But I need you to do something more. She looked up. Her eyes weren't just tired. They were full of guilt. He's my dad, she whispered. I know, and I'm not here to turn you against him. I'm here to protect you. She nodded, then pulled her sleeve up just a little. Bruises, faint, yellowing. But there. You can take pictures, she said quietly. I did. I gave her a phone. If anything else happens, anything at all, record it, text me. Later that week, she did. An audio file. Ryan shouting, glass breaking, Izzy crying in the background. It made my skin crawl, but it also sealed the case. We submitted everything to Linda Torres. Within 48 hours, DFCS opened a formal investigation. Izzy was pulled from Ryan's home and placed in temporary custody with us. Caleb hugged her tight the moment she walked through the front door. Olivia stood in the hallway, arms folded, eyes cautious. I looked her in the eye. I'm doing it. Liv. I'm not hiding anymore. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just nodded. We'll protect them. Together. Ryan, of course, denied everything. He claimed Izzy was acting out, making it up. Said the bruises were from falling during soccer. Told the investigators I was jealous of his success. That Olivia put me up to it. It didn't matter. The evidence was airtight. The day we got official approval for full temporary guardianship, I took the papers and drove straight to my parents' house. My mother opened the door. Her eyes were already red. We heard, she whispered. What are you doing, Ethan? Protecting my son, I said, and your granddaughter. My father stood behind her, arms crossed. You really gonna drag your brother through the mud like this? You got hit all the time. You didn't die. I looked him dead in the eye. No, I didn't die. But I didn't live either. Not for a long time. And then I turned and walked away. The next morning, Ryan called. His voice was calm. Too calm. You think you won. You think tearing this family apart makes you better than me. I didn't answer. Go ahead, he said. Let the world think I'm the monster. And then he hung up. He didn't threaten. He didn't cry. But for the first time in my life, I heard something in his voice I'd never heard before. Fear. The courthouse in Newton County was old. Yellowing walls, creaky wooden benches, and the kind of cold fluorescent lights that made everything feel heavier. I stood outside on the steps that morning, suit jacket tight across my shoulders, palms damp. Olivia was next to me, holding my hand. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her presence said everything. Izzy sat with a social worker by the front door, hair tied back, wearing a pale green sweater and sneakers that didn't quite fit. She looked like she was trying to disappear into herself. And Ryan, he walked in late, pressed gray suit, calm face, no eye contact. He didn't look like a man accused of beating a child. He looked like he was showing up for a business meeting. But I saw the tension in his jaw, the tight grip on his lawyer's folder, the way he avoided looking at me, or Izzy. When the judge entered, the room rose. She was older, silver hair pulled tight, glasses low on her nose. When she looked at me, I saw something unexpected. Not skepticism. Readiness. The hearing began. Ryan's attorney did what lawyers do. He painted Izzy as troubled, emotional, lashing out because of her parents' divorce. Said I was projecting my trauma onto her. That I was bitter, looking for a villain. That Caleb's injury was accidental. That the rest was hearsay. But none of it could wash away the truth. Because then Izzy stood up. She walked to the front of the courtroom slowly, hands shaking, clutching a printed copy of the letter she wrote me. The same one I'd found on my floor weeks before. Her voice was soft, barely above a whisper. But every word cut through the silence like a blade. He hits me. He yells. He says it's my fault. He says no one will believe me because he's my dad. She paused, looked straight at the judge. And I used to believe him. Until my uncle did something no one ever did before. He believed me. That was when I had to look away. My turn came. I took the stand, hands gripping the edge of the wooden box like it was the only thing holding me up. I told everything. About my childhood, about our father, about the fists and the shouting and the silence. Then about Caleb. And finally, about Izzy's letter. I said, I stayed quiet for most of my life. I stayed quiet when it happened to me. When it happened to my brother. But I'm not staying quiet anymore. Not while my son's afraid. Not while this girl's still in danger. I glanced toward Izzy. She was watching me. Not scared anymore. Just waiting. Olivia had tears in her eyes. But they didn't fall. My mother was in the back row. Shoulders hunched. Hands clutched in her lap like she was trying to hold something broken together. My father was there, too. Arms crossed, expression flat. When I finished, the courtroom was still. The only sound was the quiet shuffle of the clerk flipping pages. The judge leaned forward, looking down over the rim of her glasses. This court finds sufficient evidence of sustained abuse, effective immediately. Custody of Isabella Harper remains with Ethan and Olivia Harper under protective guardianship. Further hearings will determine permanent placement. Then she turned to Ryan. You are ordered to undergo mandatory counseling and remain under court-supervised contact, court only, pending further review. Ryan didn't speak. He just nodded once, then sat back down like a man who'd run out of air. I didn't feel triumph. There was no gloating, only a weight slowly lifting from my chest. Outside, Izzy stood quietly beside Olivia while I signed the final documents. The sky had started to clear, the first real sunlight we'd seen all week. As we walked to the car, Izzy tugged at my sleeve. "Uncle Ethan," she said, "does this mean I don't have to go back?" I crouched down, looked her in the eyes. "You don't. You're safe now. We've got you." She nodded. No tears, just relief. And then she hugged me, tightly, like she hadn't hugged anyone in years. That night, back at home, the house felt different. Caleb ran out to greet us, arms wide, Izzy's name already on his lips. They sat in the living room and started drawing on printer paper with crayons while Olivia made hot cocoa. The laughter came slowly, but it came. And for the first time in weeks, I wasn't bracing for something to go wrong. Later, after the kids went to bed, I stepped outside. The porch light buzzed overhead. The Georgia sky was clear. Cold, but quiet. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother. "I'm sorry. I didn't know how to protect you back then. I see that now. Please take care of her. Take care of them both." I stared at it for a long time. I didn't reply. Not yet. I just looked up at the stars and let myself breathe. I had lost my father. Probably my brother forever. But I had saved a child. Maybe two. And for the first time in my life, silence wasn't winning. Christmas came around again. 1 year later. But this time, there was no trip to Waycross. No turkey in the smoke-stained dining room. No pretending around a table full of ghosts. Instead, we stayed home. Just the four of us. We bought a small tree and let Caleb and Izzy decorate it with mismatched ornaments and crooked candy canes. Olivia strung up lights around the front porch, humming off-key as she worked. I stood in the kitchen, watching them, holding a mug of cocoa I hadn't made for anyone else but myself in years. It was simple, quiet, and real. Izzy had a room of her own now. Olivia helped her paint the walls a soft blue, and we picked out a small desk where she could write or draw or do homework or just be a kid. She still went to therapy every week. Some days she came back quiet. Other days, she came back talkative. But there was movement, healing. Forward. Caleb was different too. He didn't flinch when someone raised their voice anymore. He laughed louder, slept deeper, trusted more. And me? I was no longer the man who froze in the face of violence. No longer the boy who mistook silence for survival. One night, I found a folded piece of paper on my nightstand. Neat handwriting, signed with a little heart. "Uncle Ethan, you saved me. Thank you for being the first person who didn't pretend. Izzy." I read it twice. Then I just sat there, holding it like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Because that letter, just a handful of words, meant more than any courtroom ruling. It was proof that we hadn't just broken a cycle. We'd changed a future. As for Ryan, I haven't spoken to him since the hearing. He completed the first phase of his court-ordered counseling. The judge allowed limited, supervised visits, but Izzy said she wasn't ready. We didn't push her. Our father never reached out. Not once. My mother called sometimes. Short conversations. Mostly updates. She visited once in the spring, brought cookies, hugged Izzy. said nothing about the past. And that was okay, because I no longer needed closure from people who never gave it. I'd stopped waiting for apologies from the ones who hurt me. Instead, I'd built something better. A safe home, a real family, and a life where love wasn't something we had to survive. If you had told me a year ago that I'd stand in front of a judge and testify against my own brother, I would have laughed, or cried, or hung up the phone. But the truth is, sometimes justice doesn't look like revenge. Sometimes it looks like a 13-year-old girl sleeping through the night without fear, or an 8-year-old boy running across the yard, laughing, or a woman who once looked at you with heartbreak, now looking at you with trust again. Justice is quiet, but it echoes. And if there's anything I've learned from this year, it's this: silence protects the wrong people. And the only way to break the cycle is to stand up no matter how late, no matter how scared, and say, "Not anymore." That's what I did. And if you're watching this, if you've been afraid to speak, afraid to break the illusion, let me tell you, you don't need to carry it alone. You're not the only one who's been hurt. But you might be the first to stop the hurting. And that matters more than anything. If this story moved you, if you've ever been the one to speak up or wished you had, leave a comment. Share your story. You never know who needs to hear it. And if you believe silence shouldn't be what holds families together, hit that like button, subscribe, and remember, one voice can change everything.